Welcome, everyone. This is Pound Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at latest in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week, I'm joined by Cinders
Hello.
and Sanswinda.
Everybody?
Hello there. And this week, we had a small patch, just a tiny little one, where they were taking care of some bugs. That was update 47.3, and the thing that stood out to me the most was that they were tweaking armor sets.
That's what it looked like to me, too.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like in a nutshell. So I'd say just follow it because the Bjornings, Captains, Guardians, Lore Master, Mariner, and Minstrel each had a little change inside their set in there. I guess you could look at the stats on your armor, I would presume, if you're under that one. I think that these are from the latest update in them because some of the names in here sound like things that would come from like Armor of the Desert Sun.
Right, and the Triumphant Song and Silver Arrows. Silver Arrow? Or Moonlit Arrow? I'm not sure what the actual name of the armor is yet.
All right, so that's the biggest thing that they had in there. Some tweaks to the raid and other little items like that. Now, there is going to be a bigger update next week. And they did have another Bulwarker update, which went over the last few tests that they had in there to see whether or not everything is working fine. And I'm sure that they'll be spending early next week trying to decide whether or not they will be able to do a release. I'm guessing that they're shooting for Wednesday, but they have not yet made an official announcement, which means that they want to be sure that everything's all right before they go and release it. But they're expecting the anniversary to start next Thursday, and
Ooh.
obviously the anniversary can't start until after the update because that's where all the changes for the anniversary are going to be.
Fair. At least the
And
anniversary event can't start.
right, the anniversary.
In theory, an anniversary date could happen,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it won't be of much interest if the event's not there.
Well, okay, you do have a point there. And what we have then for on the borrower updates, the borrower list is, but I do have links in the show notes in there. I did notice that there are a number of class changes in there. The biggest changes are in the Guardian and in the Hunter. We'll probably discuss this next week when we have the actual release of it, so that we don't go over the same updates 2 weeks in a row.
That makes sense. I will say in advance that I'm not feeling at all upset with what looks like it's coming for the Guardian.
All right, okay, that's good news because sometimes you know that the weird things can happen when you look at it and say, "What?"
Yep. But it looks like these ones will all be either at least a non-issue or a positive thing to have change. So looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Okay. Then let's head into our store sales. And Sans, what's on sale this week?
Well, this week you can find your Shadowfax. This is the best one ever, you guys. You get your select war steeds and mounts. Unfortunately, you do have to be the right level to use a war steed. You get your writing skills. Everybody can benefit from good writing skills. Select war steed cosmetics and movement speed buffs through April 23rd. And they're only 25% off. The weekly coupon is a free Umber die with the coupon code Natural Look through April 22nd or 23rd as well. And that one does actually have two L's. It's Natural okay. And that'll get you an Umber die.
It's an Umber die, not an Umbar die.
Looks. I mean, I suppose it could be an Umbar die if you want it to be.
Could be an Umber
You
Umbar
just
die.
go to Umbar to apply. Yeah, it just depends on where you are when you apply it, right?
Okay.
So if you're standing in Umbar when you apply the Umber die, why not?
Umbar die. Umber die. I feel like there's a
It's
tongue
probably a good thing
twister
to
in
use
there
that for the
somewhere.
coupon code.
I am sure that Jax is around going somewhere trying to come up with a nice tongue twister to trip up his brother, right, or something.
Probably.
Yes. Let's now head out and check out our classic questions that we have decided to return to. We have another couple of questions from Sanswinda from back when she was really starting. And what questions do we have this week?
Well, this week, the first question is, do you typically lock the skill bars for your characters? Why or why not? Also, how would one lock or unlock his or her skill bar?
I'm going to jump in because I was literally doing this today. The answer is ever since I learned how to lock the skill bars, I lock them. Because what I learned the hard way before I knew how to lock them was that in combat, especially if you're using a combination of keyboard and mouse, it's really easy to accidentally pull an important skill off. And then it's gone until you have a break in combat to be able to find it. And that's a really easy way to meet the res circle. But if you lock the skill bars as your character is growing, if you are adding skills or whatever, they'll automatically go in. And then at your convenience, you can stop, unlock the skill bar, make the adjustments you need, and relock it. So I do lock them now, and that was one of the things that I checked earlier today on the couple of characters that I was pulling out and looking at and getting ready to go do stuff with. And I was like, lock this so that I actually keep my skills in combat. So that is my answer. And to lock or unlock your skill bar, what you do is you go to the settings, and what I do is I type the word lock in the search bar and then click the little tab that says UI, and that's the only thing that pops up, so you don't have to scroll for it. You can just check or uncheck the boxes you needed to.
Okay, I guess that could help in some situations. I know that in DDO and in LOTRO, they have those at different locations. Sometimes, so it took me a long time to figure out, oh yeah, DDO puts it on the second line and LOTRO puts it on the first line. And I got quite confused between the two for a while before I had that solidly remembered which one has the lock option at which location. So yes, that you do go to the UI options section there. Now, as for whether or not I typically do it, I usually wait until I'm about level 10. And the reason for that is I like to change where I am. Whenever I get new skills, I immediately go around swapping them around to the location where I really want that skill to be. And when you're getting a level at a very, very fast rate, it's really annoying to go in and out of the mode. But around level 10 is when things are being added at a slow enough rate where it's no longer to the point of annoyance. So therefore, usually around level 10 is when I decide, okay, I will now lock my skill bar and keep it locked except when I am doing the updating what's on there after leveling.
That makes sense.
All right. And what have you
For
chosen
the
to do?
Well, for the longest time, I did not lock my skill bars because I found it really annoying to rearrange my skills as I needed to if they are locked, because then you have to go unlock them and then relock them. Um, and then if you open a box and read something like a new kite skill or a new cosmetic pet skill, then it's suddenly on your keyboard, like you're like trying to fight and you're like summoning and unsummoning your kite. And you're like, that is not what I would like there. And you're trying to drag it off and it won't go anywhere. Um, so usually I play with them unlocked. However, I now have a large dog who is rather young. And so if I am fairly well set with my skills and am planning to do something that's going to involve a lot of fighting, they are probably locked now. Which would be my recent annoyance with one of my characters, trying to drag the skill off the new pet skill off the bar, and it wouldn't go. And I was like, "Why will this not move? Is my computer am I like crashing? What in the?" And then I realized that I had been raiding on that character the last time I had played it, and it had locked skill bars. So mine are situationally locked, but in general, without the help of the puppy, I haven't had too much trouble with using both the keyboard and mouse and keeping the skills where they need to be. So,
Okay, makes sense.
but if I am in danger of dragging one off in the middle of a big fight, it is really annoying, and I will typically go ahead and figure out locking and unlocking at that point.
Okay. And what's the second question for this week?
Do you typically change your UI from the default? Why or why not? Oh, that's gotten more interesting since I first asked that.
Yeah, because I think we had actually brought in some of this back when we were talking about last week's questions. I
Maybe?
think that's what happened because I know. See, I remember what was the previous question that I was thinking about.
We talked a little bit about it with one of the show notes, at least, even if
Yeah,
it wasn't a
okay,
question.
it is. Oh, uh,
I think it was talking about
Because they
being
were going to
able
have
to.
a toggle button instead of just having to remember the control backslash, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had some slight things into there. I was thinking that I had brought into the whole thing about setting up the UI options, slash UI
Oh, right where we can
layout.
save the layout.
Yeah, where you save the layout and then later on load it, so that way all my characters use the same layout.
Yes, and that will save the UI things that you move around before you save it. And then if you decide you like something better and you move it again, it's good to save it again, so that the next time you load a character and load that UI, it is where you want it to be and expect it to be.
And I will jump in here and say I don't typically change my UI from the default. I used to because Sam showed me how. I was like, oh, that would be so cool. And then I forgot how to do it. And then discovered that I kind of like just dragging stuff around for convenience sake. So I change it, but I don't save it if I change it. But I don't alter the scaling or anything.
Yeah, I haven't played with the new scaling options much. My UI is scaled a little bit from the default, as Cinders has noted on a few occasions. I have some things larger so that I can see them easier without squinting at my screen, especially when I'm sitting back further from my computer. But I have a basic UI set UI setup that I use for my characters, and then occasionally on specific characters I'll tweak it a little bit. but I changed where the chat window was so that I could see it more easily without losing track of what I was doing. So it's now on my screen, it's now on the bottom left. And then I added some of the bars that you can enable to the side so that I can keep some mounts that I often ride there, so that when I have to change between my horse and my goat and my war steed, I can quickly just click one of them to do that. So I did save it because going through and setting that up for each character would be a little bit of a pain.
Didn't you also save where the portraits for minions and the people in your group show up? You have them in a different spot.
That depends on which character I'm on. So some of them, it's basically where the default left it, I think. I'd have to actually check the default again, though, to be sure. I have a healing setup, though, where I put those, like, in the middle of the screen, because that was more important than what was going on in the room, was making sure that nobody was dying. So they're not, like the very, very middle of the screen, but they are definitely centered at, like, columns on my screen for one of my healing setups.
Okay, I never thought of putting it on that way.
I don't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea, but it seemed to work.
Yeah, well, and then I know some people will move them down next to the
you mean
skill bars themselves, so that they
where my character's health is and where the person I'm targeting is. I did move that down.
Yeah, I say because I keep all mine in the.
I messed with that
left.
more than I messed with the fellowship and raid list. So
yeah,
the fellowship and raid ones are the ones I moved for healing. The you're right though. My health bar and then the health bar of whoever I have targeted, I moved down, and they're like on either side of the fellowship assist window on my screen, just above my toolbars, so that if I'm looking for information, I can look in one general area of my screen, and if I'm looking to see like what's going on in the game, I can look up and I can see it pretty well.
Okay, that'll work.
What about you, Spine?
Oh,
do you typically change your UI from the default? What do you change or move around?
Well, the fact that I go through the trouble of having /UI means that I'm probably making, some sort of changes there. I don't think they're major changes. I think the main thing that I do is to set the chat box to a certain size and location, and I take the skill bars. Let's see, we have, you had the main skill bar, then you had the 3 skill bars above it, and then you had the 2 remaining skill bars. Those 2 remaining skill bars, I move them to the upper left, just under the chat box.
Okay.
And that's where I keep things like food, food, mounts, pets, and stuff like that.
Did you put them? Did you keep them horizontal or did you turn them vertically?
I keep them horizontal. Well, because they'd be going on top of the chat box if I had them vertical.
I have mine vertical on the bottom right, or on the right side at the bottom, because they were under the quest log, but now the quest log covers that whole part of the screen. So I might have to move them.
Okay. Into your quest log.
Or the quest tracker. I guess it's not technically the log, it's the tracker. It's the part that autofills if you accidentally right click and say track nearby quests, and then it like fills up your screen with quests. And I'm like, no more than 5, please. And then I have
Oh,
to go through and uncheck them
when
so
they
that they're
change,
back to the proper height.
when they changed the quest tracker to go from 5 to 10.
Yeah, it's really handy if I'm tracking a lot of quests in the same area. But if you accidentally click track nearby quests, it will track the closest quests to you that are in your quest log that could be nowhere near where you're at until it's filled all 10 of those slots. And that's where I'm like, no, please stop filling these slots. I did not mean to click that.
Oh,
That happened on the field trip last week. I was like, wait,
ah,
which am I following? Why is this pointing me back to, I want to say Archit, but it wasn't really Archit, but it was that direction. I was like, that's not going to be helpful right now.
far away where you weren't going.
Right.
All right, then. I think that's it for our discussion during the UI. I think there are 2 more questions that we have in that section, and we're going to cover those in next time. Maybe not next week because I have a feeling we're going to have a bit of discussion on the release and the anniversary and all that other fun stuff that'll be on the discussion plate next week.
That sounds good. I'm
Yeah,
looking
right.
forward to that.
Okay. So let's head into our week in Lotro. Cinders, what were you up to?
I did spend a little bit of time in LOTRO this week, and with Pine Leaf's assistance, I did do my homework. My character is now at Trader's Wharf, like it's supposed to be, for the Thursday night group. And I logged in and checked the inventory on 2 level 1 characters parked in Archit in preparation for some upcoming shenanigans. More details to be revealed later on as it happens. And then I spent some time doing real life stuff in preparation for being able to make some Lotra related foods in my own garden. So my tomatoes, red onions, lemongrass, and petunias have started to poke up in the starter pots. And I'm looking forward to being able to plant them at the beginning of May. After all of the freezes and warnings are over, hopefully I'll be able to plant them and be able to make some really yummy recipes to share with you all. Sans, how was your week in gaming?
My week was pretty good, despite what my dog is telling me about it. I finished out the Umbar tier crafting, like finished maxing it for Forrester and Taylor for Sanswinda. She can pick up the next tier for everything already, but I finished maxing the mastery of it. And then I unlocked a 4th crafting line for her, and then realized that would mean like getting it all the way up from the very beginning, which we'll see. But then I went and gathered some crafting materials because it's kind of fun and relaxing to go worst eating for scarn and logs, especially if you find an area with what you need where the mobs are gray. It's very laid back and peaceful. But then I rode into some green mobs and did some gathering of the hides as well. So that was pretty much my week in gaming. How was your week? Or my week in Lotro? How was your week in Lotro, Pineleaf?
All right, my warden ran the solo versions of the Fallen Palace and the Wailing Hold. So it's the first time I managed to complete the Fallen Palace solo version. The Wailing Hold I'm finding is a lot easier than the Fallen Palace. I don't know if you have the same opinions on that. If you've had a chance to run it or anything like that.
I have not run the solo versions, and I am not anticipating running the solo versions at this time because Blue Line Guardian, that would be painful.
Well, I run the duo versions and have a runekeeper along with you.
That would be the route to go. And maybe when I get Cinderina really ready to go, I'll run her through and see what the solo version is like. But something tells me solo on a lore master is not going to be like solo on a warden at this point in time.
Okay. And the Thursday group, we close out some loose ends throughout the starting area in the Wildwood, and as as Cinder said, that we then reached the Trader's Wharf, and I'm sure that next week we will be starting our quest over in that area. And I reached level 50, so I have a Tortoise Stone on me right now, because I believe that is our next stopping point until everybody is all nice and ready to head into Moria. And for the field trip, the Merry Crew crashed a meeting of the Gurzel. And apparently
Excellent.
apparently the wedding party just wasn't as festive as they were hoping it would be. Well, yeah, I know.
Better for all the free people of Middle Earth that way, though.
You got a point there, yes. Good thing that the Gurzel don't get along with each other. I mean, if they got along with each other, then they might be able to do more damage than they have already been doing.
Right? It's a really good thing they keep sabotaging each other's plans.
Yeah. And that concludes my week in LOTRO. If you would like to send us feedback or comment on this episode here, you could send the message to podcast@loachplayers.com. The Players Alliance has 2 shows. On Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we record Loach Players News, and we record DDO Players News when Drac is available. You can join us for our shows at loachplayers.com/live. And that's all for tonight then. This is Finding Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.